Hello, buddy. Welcome back to the Tin Man Squirrel channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor, and today I'm reading another chapter out of my North Carolina Ghosts and Legends book by Nancy Roberts. And the title of this one is called Music by the Ghost Organ. But anyway, let's get into the story. A carpenter of sorts, Horatio Carter was a rolling stone. He would not have had it any other way. He liked to meander from town to town, stopping for a few months wherever the mood struck him. Since late summer, he had been making his home in the small community of Cottish in the rolling green hills of upper Cleveland country. On this particular October afternoon, shortly after the close of World War I, he could have been seen walking up the hill from which Cottish Methodist Church surveyed the surrounding farms. A battered straw hat shielded Horatio from the hot autumn sun, and under his arm was a satchel containing his carpentry tools. As he walked, he hummed a snatch of the Muskrat Ramble, and with more humor than sorrow meditated on the quirks of a fate which had kept him poor. Entering the front door of the old church, he found the window with the rotten seal and set about his task of replacing it. He had been at work for possibly half an hour when he heard footsteps at the rear of the church. Yeah, I'll be stopping and be like, who's there? If nobody answers, keep working. There was the sound of a chair scraping on the wood floor, and then the bellows of the organ emitted an introductory wheeze. In a few seconds, the church was filled with music, but it was music the like of which Horatio had never heard before. It was neither hymn nor ballad, nor did it resemble the minstrel tunes of which Horatio was so fond. It was like the soft rustle of the night wind through the trees, or the melodious pleading of a harp plucked gently by unseen fingers. Leaving his work, the carpenter walked down the aisle toward the organ. There was an eerie quality about the perfectly blended chords of the unknown melody. As he approached, they died softly away, the last notes lingering for a moment in the air about him. What Horatio saw when he reached the organ was startling indeed. The chair at the organ was empty, the choir left deserted. A terrifying cry, the itinerant carpenter fled, his work forgotten and his tools unclaimed. Early the following afternoon, the minister of Cottish Church knocked at the door of the farmhouse where Horatio boarded. Much to his surprise, he found that the carpenter had left that morning. That poor fellow was took near crazy, said the good woman who answered the preacher's knock. All he could say over and over was he wouldn't work no place where organs just went to playing themselves. The puzzled minister shook his head in bewilderment. He confided the incident to several of his church officers, but they were as much at a loss as he. Might be he was helping himself to some white lightning while he was working, preacher, offered one of them, smiling broadly. Now, he was doing his job. He won't take no white light. It was a night in late November, and the biting cold of winter had wrapped its frost-white cloak over the fields of the little foothill community. A prominent Cottish farmer rode hastily to fetch the doctor for his wife in labor. As he approached the church, he could have sworn he heard strains of music wafted toward him by the wind. Slowing almost to a stop, he listened. An unearthly melody was coming clearly from the direction of the old cottage church. On and on played the weird music emanently from the pitch-dark church, silhouetted against the moonlit sky. But the frightened farmer had no desire to linger and hear it out. Word of the mysterious music at the cottage church began to spread. Others claimed to have heard it, but none stayed to investigate. One Sunday night, services were brought to a halt by the start of a dust storm. After the congregation had gone, the minister finished closing the windows to shut out the fine cloud of dust which was blowing in and beginning to settle everywhere. And I don't know if you guys can see that, but there's a picture of a cemetery nearby the church. Finally, he was ready to leave, but on this night, the heart of the cottage pastor was heavy. Only a minister comes to know the deep frustrations, guilt, and heartbreak of the people he serves. Oftentimes the load can be overwhelming, and so it was for the pastor tonight. He decided to sit down alone and read a few passages from his Bible. So absorbed was he that only gradually did he notice that his thoughts were accompanied by the softness of melodies. Familiar with church music as he was, he could not recall ever having heard anything similar. It floated about him with a strangely haunting quality. He walked toward the organ, feeling that he must see this organist who could play melodies of pervasive sadness with such consummate skill. As he approached, the music grew very soft, then ceased altogether. When he reached the organ, he froze with disbelief, for where he had firmly expected to see some unknown musician, he found himself confronted only by an empty chair. Nor was there anyone to be found in the choir loft. Its door was bolted just as he had left it. The minister edged forward for a closer look at the organ itself. Over its stained oak top lay a coating of dust. He drew an exploratory finger across the keys. They too were coated with the fine gray film. And now, as he stared at the coating of dust on the keyboard, the minister was certain of one thing: no human hands has been responsible for the music in Cottage Church. Well, that was it. And yeah, if you find dust fingerprints on a keyboard of an organ and nobody was there, then yep, you'll narrow it down to a ghost. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this ghost story out of this book. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on post notifications for more book reading content like this. This has been another successful installment of the Tin Man's Corner channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor, and I said that's a wrap, and have a nice day, y'all.